Boxing Features.
Hello and welcome to Boxing Features. This is a special video today. I've been speaking about it a lot in my preview and review shows. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is the best British boxer right now in every single weight division. It's going to be a long video, so I don't want to waste any time. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and let's get to the fighters.
Boxing Features.
Before we start, I just want to say I'm going to be starting off with Flyweight because minimum and light flyweight, we literally have no fighters. I think there's one fighter ranked on BoxRec between both of the weight divisions, and that one has actually fought Fly for most of his fights. So we're going to start off at Flyweight. Here we go, Flyweight. I've gone for Jay Harris. He's 18-1, and I really like him. MTK fighter, and we know him for his valiant effort against one of my favourite fighters, Julio Cesar Martinez. That's when he come onto my radar, and I think he will be a world champion. He's, as I say, his one loss was to one of the best probably in the division, probably the best in the division, and he put up a great effort. He lost most of the rounds, but he went the distance against someone who was knocking everyone out at the time. And, you know, he beat Angel Marino for the EBU European and has beat Paddy Barnes for one of the IBF international titles. He's currently ranked 7th with the Ring magazine, 6th with the IBF, 4th with the WBC, and 6th with the WA. That is amazing for me. To get in all four governing bodies' top 10s, I know it's the lower weight division, so there isn't as much depth, but there is. That's what you don't realise. There is, but it's in like Thailand, Japan, all with the lighter weight divisions, you know. So elsewhere, you could have probably gone for Tommy Frank, but he suffered a shock loss last time out. That was in the car park, wasn't it? The fight in the car park. But yeah, so for me, I had to go with Jay Harris. Moving on to Superfly now, and I have gone for Sonny Showtime Edwards. I really love him. He's one of my favourite prospects, and if he gets a world title fight this year, depending who he's fighting, I think he'll win a world title. He's definitely going to win a world title in his career because he just got that talent, especially now he's at Superfly. He's fought higher, he's fought at Fly before, but I think Superfly is what he makes comfortably. He's already won the WBO European, IBF International, WBO Intercontinental, WBO International, and a British title. And, well, I don't know whether that's a good thing or a bad thing with all these belts, but he's fighting for titles, and they've been moving up pretty quickly, you know. He's ranked 6th with the IBF, 12th for the WBC, and he's actually ranked 2nd with the WBO, but that's for a Fly, so that's the weight division below. But he hasn't fought at Fly for quite a while now, and one of these lesser titles, obviously British is not a lesser title, only one of them was at Fly. The rest of them were at Superfly, so I put him in the Superfly category, and I think he won it. The only other person probably could be his brother, Charlie Edwards, who was a world champion at Flyweight, but he's moved up, but we haven't actually seen him fight at Superfly since June of 2018 before he moved back down to Fly. Then he had one comeback fight after his no contest with Julio Cesar Martinez, and that was actually at Bantamweight, but we know he's going to be at Superfly. So you never know, if he gets a world title and starts performing, he may overtake his brother Sonny, but for now, it's got to be showtime. Bantamweight now, and this is a hard one. This was a hard one. I have gone for Lee McGregor, somewhat controversially, I think. You know, he's 9-0, and you could say he controversially beat Cash Farouk for the British and Commonwealth. I think that was in 2019, but it was close. So I wouldn't say it was controversial because it was such a close fight and he got the decision. I can't remember what the scorecards were like, but I know it was a close fight, and when you're looking at the result, I can't say it was a complete and utter robbery. Farouk may have edged it, but I wasn't scoring that fight way back a couple of years ago. And so when I look at it and see who's better, it's impossible to say at the minute. But because they're so close, they're two so talented fighters, and I just have to edge Lee McGregor because he has got Kashif Farouk on his record. Whether that's unfair or fair, I really don't know. Let me know what you think in the comments about this one. He's been scheduled to fight Karim Jeffrey, I'm not sure about that pronunciation for the European, but this is meant to happen in March, but it's been rescheduled so many times. It was meant to happen mid last year, or maybe even early last year, then got postponed because of the pandemic, then someone got injury, and then coronavirus, or all sorts has been. But I think it's, hopefully, fingers crossed, it's definitely happening in March, and this fight is a really hard European level fighter and will be a great test for Lee McGregor. He's currently ranked 4th with the IBF, and for me, it was out of 3 fighters. As I've already mentioned, Kashif Farouk. I could have gone for Kal Yafai. We know he's moving to Bantam, but he hasn't actually fought at Bantamweight since he lost his title at Superfly to Chocolatito Gonzalez last year, just before the pandemic. But yeah, I think Lee McGregor, by a tiny bit, I've gone for McGregor. This one was slightly close, but I think he got there just in the end. Super Bantam, we went for Brad Foster. He's 13-0 and 2 draws. He got a draw against Lucian Reid and then beat him in the next fight, and he performed really well in that fight. I think last time out he beat Jimmy Beats Jr. I don't think he's fought since then. He held the British and Commonwealth title. He's only 23. He's so young and he's still improving. I really like him. And when you see his earlier fights, to the fights like against Reed and Beats Jr., you can really, really, really see the improvement, like much more than you see like your Olympic level fighters, like your Olympic prospects, because he's learning on the job, but he's improving so much, which I really love. You could have given it to Thomas Patrick Ward or Gamal Yafai, but I just think Jimmy Beats Jr. and Lucian Reid are 2 great names on your record, and that's why he edges it for me. Featherweight now, extremely controversial, this one. I have given it to the former IBF world champion Josh Warrington. I know what you're going to say, he got knocked out, he got bashed all over the place by Lara. Everyone has a bad night at the office, don't they? And I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, and I believe he will come back. He was 30-0 last month. He's now 30-1. He's currently ranked number 5 by the ring. I think he was ranked number 1, wasn't he? I think he was ranked number 1 by the ring less than a month ago before he suffered that shock loss. He is number 2 with the WBC still, and number 2 with the WBA. And he actually never lost his title in the ring, did he? Because he vacated it before the loss to Lara. But I just got to give it to him. I love him. I love his style. I think he's supremely talented. And you look who you could have given it to. Kid Galahad. He beat Kid Galahad. I know people were saying Galahad won. For me, Josh Warrington nicked it. And we just see the fights that Warrington's been in against the best in Lee Selby and Carl Frampton. Absolute fantastic. And I'm going to say it again. He will come back. But, this is a big but. If the winner of Kid Galahad and Jazza Dickens for the IBF title that we believe coming later this year, if whoever wins that fight wins it by a country mile, this is a rematch, remember, because Galahad actually beat Dickens, but this was years ago. If the winner wins it by a country mile and looks absolutely fantastic, I'm quite willing to give it to that person. But for now, as I say, I'm still backing Josh Warrington. Super feather now, and I'm giving it to Carl Frampton. There's so many fighters in the super featherweight division who represent Britain, but I think Carl Frampton is just that level above. You know, you've got Zelfa Barrett, you've got Archie Sharp, you've got Martin Joseph Wald, even Joe Cordina, whoever watches the channel knows I love Joe Cordina. But Carl Frampton, I believe, honestly, is a modern British great. Might even just be a modern great. You know, I think he will go into the International Boxing Hall of Fame. He's 28-2-0. He's a 2-weight world champion, and hopefully, next month, he can be a 3-weight world champion if he beats Jamel Herring. He will go down as a legend for me, honestly. The wins over Nonito Donaire, Leo Santa Cruz, Scott Quigg, absolute class. Love Carl Frampton, and I believe at super feather, it's not his optimum weight, obviously, because that was back in the day. He's not in his prime. He's past his prime, I would say. But great work with Nigel Travis and Jamie Moore, and I think he can get this world title, and I think he is the best in the super featherweight division by quite a bit at the minute, because there's so many fighters at this level, but then just that little level higher, we have Carl Frampton. Lightweight now, and again, very close, very hard decision for me, but I have gone with the experienced 2012 Olympic gold medalist Luke Campbell. And I know what you're going to say. He was knocked out with that beautiful body shot at the beginning of this year to Ryan Garcia, but I just think I still think he's one of the best British boxers of recent times, never to actually win a world title. And his only loss has come to the best, really, Ryan Garcia earlier this year. 2019, he obviously lost to Vasily Lomachenko, who was pound for pound number 1 at the time. Jorge Linares, who was, you could probably put him in the pound for pound top 10 when he lost to him, and that was a really close fight. And he obviously suffered that shock loss to Ivan Mendy, but he avenged that on the undercard of Anthony Joshua versus Alexander Povetkin. And can he win a world title now? He's getting on. I think he's 33. I'm going to say no, but I'd love him to. And maybe if Teofimo Lopez vacates his titles, he may work his way back up, but he's got to move fast. He's really got to move fast. And I really hope he does win a version of the world title. And I still think, at the moment, he's still probably the best lightweight Britain has to offer. If you look who else I could have gone with, I was really close to going with James Tennyson, because his power is just phenomenal. I really enjoy watching him, and he just hasn't been tested at lightweight enough yet. He had a great win against Gavin Gwynn, and he also had that big knockout win at the end of last year. I can't remember who that was against, actually. Or you could have possibly gone to Lee Selby, who again is coming off the back of a loss to George Kambosos Jr., but that was really close. So it was hard, but I just think Luke Campbell maybe just has that bit more quality and has showed it at the moment. He's currently ranked 5th, still 5th with the Ring Magazine, and 8th with the WBC. All I'm saying is, fingers crossed, he finally gets his hands on a world title. But yeah, lightweight, I've gone with Luke Campbell. Now we go to super lightweight or junior welter, whatever you want to call it, and this was probably the easiest choice for me. No disrespect to any other fighters in the division. There's some great fighters in Jack Catterall, O'Hara Davies, even Tyrone McKenna. But no, you've got to give it to Josh Taylor, haven't you? You just have, he's the WBA Super Champion, the IBF Champion, and the Ring Magazine Champion. And he also got his hands on that Muhammad Ali trophy when he won at the World Boxing Super Series in 2019. I was at that fight, and what a fight that was against Regis Prograis. And I've loved him ever since. He's 17-0. He's got that undisputed fight just announced. I think it's the 22nd of May against Jose Carlos Ramirez. I cannot wait. It's one of my most anticipated fights of the whole year, and that's including Canelo, Billy Joe Saunders. Them two, for me, what's been announced, obviously, the big one, I don't even need to say what it is, hasn't been announced yet, but these two fights for me are just a grade above any fight that they could possibly announce, apart from the big heavyweight one. Obviously, he's got fantastic wins against the aforementioned Prograis, Baranchik, Postal, Ryan Martin. Absolutely fantastic. For my money, he's going to go and knock out Jose Carlos Ramirez. I love him, and I think the whole country should get behind Josh Taylor. Super lightweight, best in Britain, Josh Taylor. Next we have welterweight, and welterweight is a really strange one for me, because before I'd done my research, before I looked at all the fighters who I could possibly say, if you'd have told me I was going to choose this person, I would have said, no, you're wrong, I disagree. And I've actually gone with Conor Benn, and I know some people disagree with me for this one, but I just think he's so improved, and now, at the minute, for me, he's the best we've got to offer. Because if you look at the fighters around him, you say Kell Brook. For me, Kell Brook he's not a welterweight anymore. He's only fought a welterweight once since 2017. That was against Terence Crawford. He worked incredibly hard to get down to that weight, and that was for the opportunity of fighting someone like Terence Crawford and for the enormous paycheck I'm sure he got. So it's like I can't see Kell Brook making welterweight ever again. I hope he proves me wrong, and then I'll recalculate. But for now, I'm not accepting Kell Brook as a welterweight. And then we look, Josh Kelly. He obviously just got knocked out or tail thrown in against David Avanesian, and he hasn't shown me against any high level of opponent what he can do, if he can do anything in the pro game. I really hope he does, because I just love his style for the first 5 rounds anyway before he seems to tire, which is so sad really, because his talent is enormous. And then the other possible scenario we could do is the winner of Mickinson Congo, which is a fight I'm really looking forward to. And if again, a bit like with who was it? A bit like with Jazz Dickens, Kid Galahad. If one of them wins by a country mile and just looks absolutely fantastic, then they actually might go above Conor Benn. But for now, I'm going to have to go with Conor Benn. He's ranked number 11 with the WBA. He's going to move up. He's got this big fight against Vargas coming up. And if he comes through that, come on, no one can call him a novelty anymore. He's beat Formella, who was an IBO world champion. He went the distance with Sean Paul. Come on, I think it's now time, especially if he beats Vargas, Conor Benn gets a bit more credit than he already gets. The domestic division at Super Welter or Light Middle or whatever you want to call it, right, is absolutely stacked domestically, absolutely stacked. In the end, I went for Scott Fitzgerald, 14-0, and he's obviously had some personal problems, and he hasn't fought in well over a year now. I can't actually remember the last time he fought. No, surely it wasn't Ted Cheeseman. He may not have actually fought since Ted Cheeseman. Wow. Yeah, if he hasn't, then that's crazy. But apparently he's going to come back out. Obviously, he blew up in weight and had some personal problems. But for me, at the moment, again, he's still number 1 in Britain. Because if you look at the people around him, the other two, you got Fowler. He beat Fowler, which was a British Fight of the Year candidate for me that year. I absolutely loved that fight. I really loved that fight. And that's an underrated fight in my opinion. And he got a very, very, very close win against Ted Cheeseman. And obviously Ted Cheeseman was going crazy about it that night. I actually judged it a draw that night. I remember it. I was doing the scorecards and I judged it a draw. I haven't watched it in a very long time. Maybe I will go back and watch that. But yeah, he's got them names on his record. So at the minute, it's Scott Fitzgerald. And probably I'll go second Ted Cheeseman because of that fantastic war of a win over Sam Eggington. And again, if Cheeseman looks fantastic against Metcalf, which I think that's on the rescheduled Dillian White versus Alexander Povetkin card, then that's when we potentially look to see and we can say, okay, Ted Cheeseman is the best super welterweight Britain has got to offer. But for now, Fitzgerald, you've still got it, my man. Next, we got middleweight, and in the end, I actually went for Chris Eubank Jr., and it was really close between him and Liam Williams, but in the end, I just think Eubank Jr. just pipped him to it for now, and when I say for now, I really do mean for now, because if Liam Williams goes and wins the WBO middleweight championship against Demetrius Andrade, at the end of April, he will instantly go to number 1 for me. He really will, because that will be a great win for him. Chris Eubank Jr. is 29-2, number 6 with the Ring Magazine, number 1 with the WBA. His only 2 losses come to Billy Joe Saunders and George Groves. No harm in that whatsoever. But yeah, no, really close. But for middleweight, Chris Eubank Jr. Super middleweight now, and for anyone who watches the channel, I'm sure you know who I'm going to say. Billy Joe Saunders, one of my favourite boxers right now, and I really hope he can go and shock the world against Canelo Alvarez, but we'll save that for another video, because once you get me started on this, I'll be talking for hours about this fight. He is the WBO Super Middleweight Champion. He's ranked number 5 with the Ring Magazine, And yeah, he's just fantastic. He's had fantastic wins over Andy Lee, David Lemieux. Granted, they were at middleweight earlier on in his career against Chris Eubank Jr. And yeah, no, I just think he's got all the skill, all the tools. He has off nights, but when it matters, he digs in and does what is needed of him. And that's all that matters, really. It's, again, you look at possible Callum Smith, but he's moving up to light heavy now after his loss against Canelo at the end of last year. Zach Parker looks very good, but hasn't fought at anywhere near the level of Billy Joe. And John Ryder looks fantastic. He really does look good, and he's come up on leaps and bundles. And that is a fight I would love to see, a rematch between John Ryder and Billy Joe Saunders at super middleweight. But yeah, he don't come close to Billy Joe for me for now, and I'm going to have to go with my boy Billy Joe Saunders. Light heavyweight now, and this was a case of talent over resume. I went with Joshua Buatsi, 13-0, number 9 with the WBO, number 3 with the IBF, number 8 with the WBC, and number 2 with the WBA, and one word, talent. It's just absolutely phenomenal. I love Buatsi, and I really want to see him move up in opposition now, because he had that fantastic test against Mark Kalic at the end of last year, where he had suffered that really bad eye injury, but he come through it, and that showed me that he's ready for the next level. Granted, I'm not saying stick him in with Beterbiev or Bivol just yet, but it'd be nice to see him against someone like Bolotniks, Gilberto Ramirez, or even Maxim Vlasov, like someone like that. It's a hard top 15, top 10, you know. And I'm just looking forward to seeing Buatsi. He go up and up. He got a bronze at the Rio 2016 Olympics, and I can't wait. You look at the other heavyweights, light heavyweights, I could have said, because it is a stacked domestic division. Obviously, you've got Anthony Yarde, you've got Lyndon Arthur, you've got Craig Richards, you've even got Shaka Pitters. But yeah, no, the closest was probably Lyndon Arthur after his great win against Anthony Yarde at the back end of last year. But Buatsi gets it for me. Cruiserweight, and once again, for me, it's about levels. And I believe Lawrence Okoli is a level above any other British cruiserweight. I'm not saying he has the most exciting style, although it looks to be changing under Shane McGuigan, but he just uses his physicality to beat anything that's put in front of him, and I believe he will become the WBO Cruiserweight World Champion at the end of this month when he faces Glowacki. And again, you could say react poor Bruno Smith, but again, it's about levels, and I believe Lawrence Okoli is just that little level above, and they could reach that level, but Okoli is there for me right now. That's why the source Okoli is at top spot. Last but certainly not least, I'm looking forward to it. We're all looking forward to it. Fingers crossed it happens. It's out of these two boxes. It's Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua. Who am I going to choose? I'd love to sit on the fence and say I'll just see who wins the fight and then I'll pick them, but I'm not that type of person. I'm going for Tyson Fury. I love him. Not going to say too much. Could Anthony Joshua beat Tyson Fury? Yes, he could. Honestly, cannot wait. I think it's closer than a lot of people are saying, because I could see some people saying that Fury's going to school him for the whole 12 rounds. I can't see that happening at all. I think both fighters are going to find success, but I'll do a whole nother video on that. When that happens, it's going to be content galore, isn't it? Every boxing content maker is going to love this that week. But yeah, for now, all I'm going to say is Tyson Fury.
Boxing features.
And that's it. Every single weight division covered. Let me know what you think. It's opinions once again. I might be wrong. Let me know if you think I'm wrong in the comments below. Make sure you share. Make sure you subscribe. And carry on watching Boxing Features for plenty more content like this. As ever, thanks for watching.